So, what's up mga ka-Investa? Isa sa mga pinakamalaking IPO sa Pilipinas ay paparating na, si Converge. So, tatalakayin natin kung maganda ba to, dapat mo bang bilhin to? At ano bang kailangan nating tignan o i-analyze para makagawa tayo ng desisyon sa paparating na IPO na to? So ngayon, kasama ko ang ating special guest, ang ating kaibigan na investment banker, si Ray. So eto na.
Hi JC. Hi mga ka-Investa. Glad to be back. Thanks for having me again. So this time around nga, medyo mas exciting and mas challenging yung i-analyze natin. Pero shorter na lang, di na natin dadaanan yung buong prospectus. So nag-prepare na tayo ng summary and yun na lang yung daanan natin. So let's get straight to it if you want. No?
Yeah, so kung naalala niyo yung A-rate natin, no, tinalakay natin ni Ray and nakachamba tayo doon. Sana natulungan kayo. Ngayon naman, hinimayin na namin kung ano yung mga data points na kailangan natin pag-isipan para mag-guide natin yung buong trading community. Okay, so game Ray, simulan na natin to.
Yep. So ayun, so as you mentioned, this one is for Converge ICT Solutions Inc. Mag-IPO sila, target to list by October 26 if that doesn't change. Ito, quick overview lang ng mga stats nila. Yung business, gets naman na natin sino si Converge, internet service provider, diba? Pero ito yung mga stats nila. So as of June 2020, 55% market share nila dun sa high-speed fixed broadband segment. High-speed meaning hindi nakasali dyan yung mga older technologies like DSL. So this is more on fiber, yung market share na to. And then fixed broadband, so hindi kasama dito yung mga 4G, pocket Wi-Fi, mobile devices. So ito yung mga wired talaga. And then they also claim na 2.2 times faster yung fiber connections nila versus the rest of the market. Up to you na lang if you believe that, if you have experience. Pero ako, based on my experience, we've been with Converge since late 2016 actually. Medyo maaga kami nag-Converge. And for me, medyo mabilis nga talaga yung internet nila versus our older providers and other providers actually. And then in terms of yung financials naman, yung top line revenues nila, magic number yung CAGR nila from 2016 to 2019. So, ayan, no?
69%. Look
Ang
at
lakas. So, dito pa lang kita na natin na high growth company ito historically. And even until now, ang lakas pa rin ng growth nila. And then, ito, in terms of coverage naman, gaano kalawak na ba yung nakukover nilang areas? So far, they have 200 cities and municipalities out of around 1,600 in the Philippines. And then, key point to note lang dito is, all of these 200, nasa Luzon pa lang siya. And they're setting up for expansion sa Visayas and Mindanao. So may growth opportunities pa in those areas. Right?
So yun yung purpose ng IPO, yung expansion.
Yes, yung proceeds to the company, yung primary proceeds, gagamitin nila primarily for expansion.
Okay, sige.
And then, ito. So, yung company structure nila and yung structure nila ng IPO. So, right now, 30 and 70% owned sila by Clark, which is yung company ni Dennis Anthony Uy and Maria Grace Uy. So, mag-asawa sila. They are CEO and president. So, magkasama silang nag-lead ng company. So, Clark sila yun. Coherent Cloud, yung 29-30% right now, this is actually yung investment vehicle ng private equity firm, yung global private equity firm na si Warburg Pincus. And pag-uusapan din natin yan later on. And then in terms of yung IPO structure naman, so magre-raise sila ng 1.7 magbebenta sila ng 1.7 billion shares and 481 nun ay primary, meaning 481 million shares, yung proceeds nun pupunta directly to the company for their expansion plans. Pero when you consider yung secondary, there's actually a selling shareholder here. Actually, both of them magbebenta. So itong si Warburg Pincus, yung blue, halos kalahati ng stake niya, ibebenta niya sa IPO. So so a large part ng proceeds ng IPO pupunta actually kay Warburg. And then may portion din na pupunta dun sa company ni Dennis Uy and his wife. So just something to note. No?
I think important to, no? Kasi just to put into context, so halos Ray, 30% lang nung IPO yung parang magiging fresh capital ng company. The others ay parang ano na to, cash out or parang profits na nung investor and nung owners.
Yup. And primarily, it's yun nga, nag-exit si Warburg yung half ng position niya.
Oo. So ayun, parang 30% lang dun sa mare-raise ng IPO na to yung mayu-utilize for the expansion part.
Yep. So
Okay.
that's around 8 billion pesos. Substantial pa rin naman, pero yun, just you have to know na not the entire amount will go to the company.
Hindi siya yung kabuoang 25B.
Yep. 8
Okay.
billion lang yung primary.
Yeah. Sige. Okay.
And then ito, operational highlights nila over the past 4 years. So 2016, they had 70,000 customers. Right now, they have 730. So 10 times since 2016. Diba? Sobrang high growth talaga. 90% CAGR, meaning almost every year nagdo-double yung number of customers niya. And then another thing to point out here, customer churn. Churn means ilang percent ng customers mo yung nag-disconnect na. So right now and last year, it was less than 1%. So that's a pretty good statistic to have. It goes in their favor. And then ito naman,
napakalakas nun.
Yep. Ito, coverage nila, as we mentioned, about 200 cities and municipalities. Pero actually, that's 17% of all of the households in the Philippines already. Yung nasa or nadadaanan ng network nila. So kaya nilang kabitan if mag-subscribe 17% ng Pilipinas. And then sa financials naman, and nga, as we mentioned, ang lakas ng CAGR nila, 69% from 2016 to 2019. Pero even this year, from January to June of 2019 to January to June of 2020, nag-increase by 65% yung revenues nila. So, of course, kasi nag-increase, lahat tayo nag-work from home. So, ang dami nagpakabit ng additional internet or nag-switch ng provider. Yun, nag-benefit si Converge from that trend, of course.
Ray, teka lang.
Yep.
Baka pwede, anong layman's natin na explanation sa CAGR para lang makuha ng ating viewers din?
Yep, sure. So CAGR actually stands for Compounded Annual Growth Rate. So basically parang average annual growth mo over a certain period.
Okay,
kasi
nice.
Ito diba, below 2.5 billion to close to 10 billion in revenues. So what that translates to is 69% average annual growth. So every year 69% growth ka historically.
Solid.
And then in terms of profits naman, EBITDA and net profit. So these are two common metrics sa finance. We can see na it's the same trend moving up historically, and this year malaki rin yung increase. Tapos when we compare it to TEL, PLDT and Globe, kita natin na mas mature companies na talaga tong si PLDT and Globe. And of course, alam na rin naman natin yun, even without seeing the numbers. Versus Converge na, 50 to 70 plus % yung growth niya. Diba?
Yeah.
So, very high growth company.
Tama. Ibang-iba yung yung thematics nito ni Converge, no? Exciting versus TEL and Globe na relatively medyo mature na. Okay.
So, alam natin may ibang investors na nag-PLDT, nag-Globe for the dividends. Converge, that's not the play here. You're in it for the growth talaga, di ba? So, ito. So, yun yung historical situation niya. Pero from an investment perspective, importante rin dito, of course, is yung forward-looking. Ano ba mangyayari in the future? Of course, gets naman natin yung mga themes natin na, work from home. It might continue even after the pandemic, di ba? Na nagiging mas flexible na yung working arrangements. And so people will need internet, reliable internet to be more specific. So ito, si Converge as part of their IPO process, hinire nila or kinuha nilang as consultants sina Media Partners Asia and si Nielsen, yung survey, yung mga market research and surveys. So ito statistics from across the region. So Philippines, in terms of penetration ng broadband, 14% pa lang ng households ang may fixed broadband sa Philippines. Versus, other countries in the region, umaabot ng 40 to 50% plus. So, malaki pa rin yung potential natin if we reach their level din, diba? In terms of FTTX or yung fiber technology nila, it's the same story. Malaki pa rin yung room for growth for the entire Philippine market. if we catch up to our neighboring countries, diba? And then moving forward, because yun nga, ang laki nga nung potential, ito yung forecast nila media partners na magiging number of subscribers through 2025. So expect nila na 16% growth on average every year in terms of number of subscribers. And then penetration rate binigay din nila. So expected nila na from 14% right now, by 2025, 32% of all households in the Philippines magkaka-fixed broadband connection na. So ito interpretation yan. So ayun, we know na it's a fast growth company, pero the industry it operates in, yung buong market, it's forecasted to still grow. So that's a good sign for this company. So that's in terms of everyone can benefit. All of the players, even PLDT and Globe can benefit from this. Pero in terms of market share naman, kita natin dito 5% in 2017 to 19%. So 1/5 ng entire market ng fixed broadband belongs to Converge already. So kumakain sila ng market share over the past few years, because high growth company siya. And then this fixed wired broadband net additions. So how many additional customers? What percent pala kasi market share to of the new subscribers belong to Converge. So yun, kita natin in 2018, over 50% ng new subscribers napunta kay Converge. 2019 and this year, it's the same story. So malakas talaga siya, and because it's doing that, kaya nag-grow yung market share niya. Diba? And then, ito more specific to yung fiber. So itong high speed, it excludes yung mga older technologies like DSL. So ito, kita natin na as of June 2020, 55% ng high speed na fixed broadband is already Converge's market share. So siya na yung market leader sa segment na to.
Ayun. So growing industry, growing company, and then leadership position. Ito yung mga nakikita natin so far.
Yep. So when you add those three together, you're in a growing market, but your market share is also growing. So it's possible, it's highly likely, if mag-continue tong trend, na you will grow faster than the market. That's how they were able to achieve 69% versus the rest.
Yeah, good point.
So that's yung situation. And then another good survey or results na present nila sa prospectus nila. So how likely are you to switch to a new provider? So nag-survey sila ng over 1,000 people. So yung mga Converge subscribers, in total 3% lang yung gusto mag-switch versus operators 1 and 2. Hindi na nila name kung sino, alin dito si Globe, alin dito si PLDT. Pero of course, it's one or the other lang naman. So yun nga, halos 20 to 30% ng customers nila either likely to switch or decided na they will switch. And then, so what does that translate to, diba? Kung gusto nilang mag-switch, kanino sila pupunta? So sinurvey din yun. Sino yung bagong provider na lilipatan mo? And ang sabi sa survey, 60% gusto lumipat kay Converge. Kaya itong trend ng market share na pa-increase, I believe na it will keep going up because, if these survey results materialize, diba? So that's one way to look at this story, na high growth siya, and we expect na it will continue to grow fast in the coming years rather. Tapos ito, some other stats, mga qualitative naman, value for money, internet speed, reliability. Converge
Pero
yung leader.
Yung survey results nang galing sa prospectus nila, tama ba?
Yes, based on yung consultants na hinire nila for the process.
So syempre yun. Pero ikaw, Ray, since Converge user ka mula doon sa dati mo, naramdaman mo naman yung difference.
Yeah, huge improvement for me. And actually right now, yung setup sa bahay is we have multiple internet service providers just in case, kasi we're all working from home so just in case yung isa biglang mawalan ng internet, at least may backup na. Well, that's one. And then yung other one naman is, so we're not all using the same provider at once. So hopefully that's helping, diba? Kasi 6 kami dito at home right now, working from home. Kaya ayun. And I think we're not the only ones doing that. I know a few other people na may backup or multiple providers na rin, especially now.
Dapat gayahin ko yan, Okay, thanks sa tip.
Kasi
Pero anyway, tanong ko
hassle
lang, so
ma-disconnect.
totoo. Lalo ito gumagawa tayo ng video. So, tanong ko lang, so sa experience mo sa 100%, ilang percent yung parang downtime or times na unreliable si Converge so far in the few years?
Very minimal siya. Yung pinaka naging cost, yung most frequent cost na nangyari was kasi yung fiber cable sobrang nipis niya. Yung parang, I don't know if you've seen it, pero it's a super thin, transparent wire na
Hmm,
nakakabit from outside your house, naka-cover pa siya. Pero inside your house, hindi na siya covered. So
hmm,
inside your house, yung wire na yun, it goes to your modem or router, Wi-Fi router, di ba?
hmm,
And once in a while, it's possible na ma-damage yung wire na yun, lalo na if it goes through a doorway, for example.
oo.
So yun yung pinaka-frequent cause for us, is nada-damage, medyo nagkaka-tear yung wire. Pero
Hmm,
ang maganda sa kanila is service availability.
oo.
So, I know some people are complaining na medyo nagiging poor na rin nga yung service nila, pero it's still, for me, it's still better than the previous providers we had. As
Hmm,
in, mas mabilis mong ma-reach sa phone. And once ma-reach mo sa phone, they actually arrive sometimes even within the same day to fix it.
nice.
And mabilis nilang naaayos. So,
Okay,
in that aspect,
interesting.
for me, medyo solid talaga siya.
Oo. Ayun, kasi kaya ko rin natanong, ikaw bilang actual customer, 'di ba? Kasi 'pag tinignan mo sa social media, parang kahit sinong internet provider, parang galit lahat ng Pinoy, eh. Kaya siyempre lahat sila may pagkukulang, pero baka may meron ring mas okay among the 3, 'di ba? Or ayun, okay. So thanks diyan, Ray. Sige, ano next
Pero
natin?
among my friends din, mas napapansin ko na fewer complaints sa Converge.
Hmm, okey. I'm sold.
Pero, pero unavoidable, of course, may magko-complain. Pero yun nga, fewer
Oo,
lang for me.
gets,
Nakikita ko.
gets. Puwede na
So,
yun, puwede na yun.
ayan. So that's, yun yung historical results and just some things to consider when looking forward, di ba? Growing market share. Tapos, ayun nga, according to surveys, preferred provider sila. Right. So, next important point to consider naman would be on pricing. So, JC, you wanna talk about this point?
Okay. So, something to take note of, unang nilabas 'tong Converge yung plano nila. Una, 24 pesos per share 'to, yun yung top of the range hanggang sa naging 16 to 19, pero they ended up, selling the IPO at 16.8, 'di ba?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
lower part of the range, parang kung naalala niyo, parang si A-REIT rin dati balak 30 tapos naging 26, 'di ba? So gano'n yung nangyayari kapag may range na nilagay. Siyempre tataasan nila yung range, pero yung demand isn't hungry enough to really buy it up all the way sa tuktok ng range. Parang support resistance, medyo nasa ilalim siya ng range. Yun
Mm-hmm.
yung gauge sa demand para sa akin at this point. So, ito, I think another relevant thing is 80% pupunta sa institutional investors, yung total na 25 billion na allocation, and then 80% nun pupunta and 20% naman sa mga normal na tao kagaya natin. Tama ba, Ray?
Yep. So, 80%
Ayan.
subscribe na may orders na yun.
Okay. So 20% na lang yung sa retail and everyone else. So ito may something interesting. Kasi nakita ko sa disclosure ni Philippine Stock Exchange, pag magsa-subscribe ka doon sa LSI program, yung Local Small Investors Program,
Yep.
ang pwede mong ibilhin na maximum shares ay 1 million pesos kada
Mm-hmm.
kada retail investor, kada tao. So kunyari ako, si Ray, pwede kami bumili tig 1 million. Tayo lahat pwede tayong bumili. Nakakagulat lang 'yun para sa akin as a trader kasi for the last 8 years or so, sobrang bihira ka makakita ng IPO na gano'n kalaking size yung allocated for small investors like us. Kasi usually, yung tansya ko usually 50,000, 100,000 lang per IPO or
Mm-hmm.
yung iba 200K pag wala masyadong kumuha. Ang laki na, happy ka na. Pero ito, 1 million kada isa. So that on itself tells me na shit, medyo parang mabigat or malaki talaga yung offering nila.
Yep.
So tinanong ko rin yung broker ko, sabi parang, "Uy, magkano kukunin mong Converge?" Tapos sinabi ko yung amount. Tapos nabigay lahat yung amount. Usually hindi nangyayari yun. So napaisip ako parang, teka, bawiin mo muna. Teka lang. Parang napaisip lang ako. Pero
Reconsider ka.
yun lang yung experience ko, no. Pero titignan natin ano bang implication nitong mga factors na to sa data points na na-gather namin ni Ray. Sige.
So 16.8 na yung set na price niya, no?
Oo.
And ito in terms of PE ratio niya. So based on yung latest net profit niya for the past 12 months, which is around 2.4 billion pesos, that translates to 54 times PE. So medyo mataas, no? Especially when we compare it to Globe and PLDT, nasa 11 to 13 times lang. Pero yun nga, it's a high growth company, so we can't just look at the past 12 months for the net profit. So ang ginawa ko dito is nag-project ako. What if it grows 10%? What if it grows 55% over the next 12 months? Ano yung magiging PE niya based on that? So if let's say earnings grow by 55% over the next 12 months, yung PE niya would be closer to 35 times. Ito for me, medyo mas fair na siya. When you translate that to yung PEG ratio, that's 1.0, which benchmark sa industry is around fairly valued na yan, 1.0 times.
For growth stocks.
Yep. Pero, yun nga, caveat lang, this is future growth. So, of course, we don't know if ma-achieve to or not. Currently, as of June 2020, nasa 23% na sila from 2019. And let's see if kaya na lang ma-reach 55%. And then, ito, another way of looking at it naman, kasi PE has two components, diba? Pwedeng yung price gumalaw, pwede rin yung earnings gumalaw. So itong top chart na to, this is earnings. We're just showing yung range of PEs depending on how high yung future earnings growth niya.
Oo.
Dito naman sa baba.
So kung napatunayan ng company na strong earnings siya, bumababa yung PE ratio, nagiging mas attractive. Yun yung concept.
It makes more sense na yung binibenta nila. Kasi if you just say 54 times PE without talking about yung growth, edi obviously, syempre mahal siya, di ba?
Oo.
Ito naman, we're looking sa bottom. We're looking at yung price component naman. What if bumaba yung price niya? We're saying kasi na 16.8, medyo, some people then are outside. Yung mga analysis nakikita natin sa Facebook and other pages, they're saying na medyo mahal na nga 16.8, and we don't really disagree with that. So we're looking at what if bumaba yung price niya? Ano yung magiging PE at those points, diba? So itong green bars, assuming na profits grow by 25%. Ito namang gray bars, assuming na profits grow by 50%. So let's say bumaba yung price niya to 15 pesos per share, and mag-grow and we expect, for example we expect na earnings will grow by 50%, then we see na, nasa around 40 times PE siya based on 2020 forecasted net earnings.
Okay.
And then, ito siya. When you put those two together, the share price, ito siya on top, and profit growth. So how do you read a table like this for PE sensitivity? No? So let's say, for example, 16.8 siya right now, and then, currently 23% na yung growth na na-achieve niya for the year, 54.1 times PE, more or less. And then, if it goes down, let's say, in the first week, in the first month of trading to 15 pesos per share, and we believe kaya niyang i-achieve is 50% profit growth, then it's closer to 40 times PE. Medyo mas nagiging fair. So the higher your profit growth going down, and the lower your share price, mas nagiging attractive yung PE, right? So it makes sense. Pero something to consider lang din. If you say na we're waiting at 11 pesos per share, I think yun yung fair. Just sabihin nating opinion mo yun, diba? You have to consider this as well, that you're asking for a 35% discount from share price. So just something to consider, diba?
So ang binabalance natin dito yung kung naghahanap ka ng discount and ina-account mo rin yung future growth ng company, kasi kada growth niyan nagiging mas justified rin yung presyo, 'di ba? So balance ng dalawang factors.
Yep. So if you can't just ask for too low of a price din naman. Kasi ayun nga, you're seeing na, do you really believe na this stock will go down by 35%, 40%, for example?
Yeah.
And then ito, some other things to note about IPOs. No? So here, let's go first to market cap. At 16.8, we're looking at a market cap of 126 billion pesos, making it number 21 or 20 overall sa PSE. So large cap talaga siya, and it would be larger than some of the index stocks na actually. Tapos, in terms of deal size, magkano yung ibebenta sa IPO, depende na lang if ma-over a lot or not. We're looking at 25 to 29 billion pesos in proceeds. So both primary and secondary, ito yung funds na part ng IPO. And it would be the third largest IPO since 2010, January 2010. So some things to note on this page. For me personally, I don't see that much upside for Converge. Kasi isipin mo to, if it grows, let's say, maybe by 20% yung stock price niya, malalampasan niya na the likes of Jollibee, Metrobank, Aboitiz Power. Parang how realistic is that, diba?
Tama.
Diba? If
Parang
mag-double siya,
if
mag-double siya, maaabot niya na si PLDT and si Globe. And for me, it's not really justifiable yet at this point.
Yeah. Good point. Na parang pasok agad siya sa heavyweight kahit na early, medyo maaga-aga pa siya, no? So, baka maging challenge yun sa stock price.
Yep. It's actually, I believe, a 13-year-old company versus some of these na 100-year-old, diba?
Solid. Interesting.
And then, since we mentioned deal size, diba? How does this play into our analysis naman? So, we looked at yung statistics ng deal size versus yung price performance ng mga IPOs since 2010. So, wala masyadong clear trend sa chart natin, pero what we can say is, yun nga, pag medyo maliit yung deal size mo, dun medyo varying, malaki yung range ng possible results mo. So the likes of Mart, diba, medyo maliit lang tong IPO na to. They achieved over 250% gain in 1 week from the offer price. Versus when you look at mga RRHI, Cebu Pacific, ito Cemex, itong mga large IPO offerings, like IPOs, yung range ng price performance nila within the first week is either from 4% loss up to 16% gain. So medyo maliit lang yung range of possibilities historically. Of course, data is not perfect naman, pero just so we have a sense, diba? And then looking at 1 month perspective naman, yun, we're seeing negative 5% to plus 16% yung possible range historically. Right? So of course, si Converge would be somewhere around this area, itong 25, 29 billion peso IPO size. So ayun, it falls more in this range historically. So we don't expect na magsisiling play yan. Obviously, hindi yan mangyayari. And we don't expect na mag 100% gain siya within 1 week or 1 month. So we'll move towards more analysis. Pero ayun na, moving forward, tatanggalin na natin yung mga outliers like Mart, Double Dragon, Surpass, KPPI, for example. Hindi natin sila isasali kasi ayun nga, they're not exactly in the same kinds of IPOs na. Okay? So ito yung first analysis, not one first, pero itong analysis that we want to show. Kumusta yung performance relative to your PE? So ito lahat ng IPOs since 2010, excluding yung mga nag-ceiling plays, yung mga extraordinary, diba? So ang makikita natin dito is, if you have a lower PE, mas mataas yung price performance mo within 6 months or 1 year. If you have a higher PE in this case meaning 48 times pataas, so pasok si Converge, medyo mas poor yung performance on average historically over the past for 6 months or 1 year period. And then somewhere in between, medyo may makikita kang trend na the lower your PE, on average, the higher your performance. The higher your PE, on average, the lower your stock price performance. So yun yung makita natin from this chart. And that's just data from Bloomberg na we got since 2010.
Yeah.
And then, ito namang nasa baba, we're looking at yung structure ng IPO. So, an IPO kasi, it can be primary only, meaning lahat ng proceeds pupunta sa company for expansion or pangbayad ng debt. And then, it's also possible na may secondary component siya, meaning, yun nga, may pupuntang proceeds sa selling shareholders. So, in this case, sa Converge, part ng proceeds, 70% ng proceeds are going to yung Coherent Cloud, yung vehicle ni Warburg Pincus, and si Com Clark, yung company ni Dennis Uy and Maria Uy. So, ito siya, secondary. And then ito naman ay another class.
Okay.
If over 20% ng shares na i-offer mo are secondary, ito yung performance, ito yung average performance niya. So, medyo may trend din, of course, not that perfect, pero ayun nga, pag primary, medyo mas malakas yung performance versus pag marami kang secondary, medyo mas mababa yung performance for a 6-month or 1-year period.
Yeah.
Historically, diba?
So, guys and gals, iterate ko lang, ito siguro yung pinaka-importanting slide dito kasi ito, raw facts to, basically data to ng mga previous behaviors and characteristics ng mga IPOs sa Pilipinas. So, yung pinakita ni Ray sa taas, quinadrant niya into, 'di ba, 4 na categories yung PE, low PE papuntang high PE companies. So 48 times yung top 25% highest PEs. So diyan papasok si Converge kasi 54 times PE siya mag-IPO eh. So dito pa lang may clue na tayo na okay, 54 times PE siya based lang sa history sa past data. His usual behavior ay 6 months to 1 year within 9% to negative 6% yung downside. Yun yung napakita ng history. And so doon pa lang alam na natin na okay, mahirap to umakyat ng 10-20% or mas mataas pa yung probabilidad natin na baka mag-correct pa to kasi medyo mahal nga yung IPO. Tapos ito naman, ito yung interesting pa sa baba, business sense. Kasi yung importansya ng secondary shares ay kung karamihan ng IPO, yung proceeds ng IPO ay mapupunta lang sa secondary holders, parang nagka-cash out lang yung mga previous investor nila, then onti lang yung benefit sa actual operations ng company, di ba? Not unless na lang may pledge sila na i-reinvest yun doon sa loob. Pero wala eh. Hindi naman ganun yung mangyayari dyan eh. As in, nagbebenta lang talaga sila ng shares. So, dun sa 25B, 30% lang yung magbe-benefit kay Converge. So yung 70% hindi niya ma-invest as boost sa power nila or expansion nila, 'di ba? So business sense rin 'yon na yung mga IPO na konti lang yung na-utilize dun sa capital na nire-raise nila, then mas mahina yung parang boost rin sa overall expansion or capability, which goes to show sa data na in the 6 months to 1 year, ayun, -4 to positive 9%. So pag tinignan mo, medyo on these both factors, nasa may alanganin or minimal upside or mas probabilistic na may downside si Converge kapag ito yung basis natin. But of course, past data isn't always perfect or predictive, pero it can give us a good gauge of probabilities kung nasan tayo. Lalo na dalawang factors dito ay dehado si Converge at this point. Okay? So, anong next natin, Ray?
Exactly. So, coming from yung secondary shareholder perspective nga, no? Let's talk about the real winner in this IPO. So, even before mag-list siya, well, of course, assuming dapat mag-list muna siya, diba? Pero, yun, may panalo na actually, and that would be si Warburg Pincus nga, the private equity firm. Kasi in July 2019, nag-invest sila ng $225 million into Converge. And now, sa IPO na to, magbebenta sila ng half ng stake nila. So, itong $225 million, if you convert that to pesos per share, ang lalabas dyan is mga 5.5 to 6 pesos per share. Tapos, ibebenta nila 16.8. So, ano nangyari dun is triple your money in just over 1 year, diba? So,
Solid.
mga local small traders, baka kaya nila 225,000 pesos. I-triple in 1 year. Diba? Some people have done that. Pero ito, $225 million. So, ganun kalaking pera na-turn nila, na-triple nila in 1 year. So,
Lakas.
ibang klase talaga, no? That's why I'm saying that for me, they're the real winners sa IPO na to. Of course, may benefit din for sila Dennis Uy and Maria Uy, but yun, this one year holding period lang tapos wow, triple your money na.
So, panalo yung private investor nila.
Mm-hmm. And then, ayan, so that's basically a wrap-up of our analysis, no? So, ito, key considerations for the investors, just to recap, right? So,
Yeah, so sige,
go,
Ray.
JC. Yeah, go,
Sige.
go.
So to conclude, guys and gals, eto, so maganda yung company, maganda yung storya, good growth internally as a company, good performance, good revenue growth, EPS growth, profit growth, and then yung market share din maganda. Pero at the same time, yung industry, yung demand, yung need for this space, 'di ba? Growing rin 'yan. So in terms of company growth, industry growth nandyan, intact 'yan. Maganda yung storya. Pero valuation, high PE. And then nung inanalyze natin yung ano nangyayari sa mga high PE, medyo alanganin, 'di ba? Ayan, nasa 48 times 'yan yung nangyayari. So, tapos besides diyan, mabigat trend relatively. Nasa na yun yung kanina natin. Yung yan, hindi, yung oo. So isa siya sa mga mabibigat na IPOs, one of the largest in history. So hindi natin expect na lilipad yan na 40% up, etc. So mahal na, mabigat pa. So dalawang balakid na, dalawang challenge na, no. And then on the business sense naman, secondary shares, this is another challenge. Okay, IPO tayo, biggest 25 billion. Pero yung pala, doon sa 25 billion, potentially 8 billion lang yung magagamit sa operations. May invest ng company doon sa expansion, yung benefit nila. The rest, cash out lang, sell out lang. So another parang another pool na naman, pabigat na naman ulit, 'di ba? So okay, yun yung mga factors. So pag tinignan mo, good company, good industry. Pero baka yung weight nung IPO and yung current price niya medyo pwede pa natin diskartehan. So siguro ito yung recommendations namin ni Ray. So ako kung trader, nilagay ko dito, wait for breakout setup 25 to 50 days or mga let's say at minimum mga 15 days to 30 days ganyan. So bakit? Hindi ka naman may iwan ng mga ganitong stock. Kung naalala nyo, check nyo lang yung chart ni Wilcon. Maganda rin yun. Though yun, mas mura yung ano nun, pero growth stock rin siya dati. Nag-consolidate muna yun. So, kapag IPO, hindi mo naman kailangan ma-FOMO na parang, shit, kailangan ko na umall in, bilhin agad to, di ba? You can just let it flow. Antayin mo kung paano yung demand sentiment, paano yung developments ng stock. Tapos magko-consolidate yan. Yun nga, within 25 to 50 days or even longer. Tapos kapag natapos yung consolidation, kapag may setup na talaga, as traders tayo, mayroon tayong luxury of time or even our volume, weight of allocation, pwede tayong dun mag-antay. Parang okay, kung bababa yan, wala kang magagawa. Kung babagsak siya, wala tayong exposure agad. Pero kung nandun na yung momentum, dun tayo makakapasok sa tamang timing. So yan yung for traders. Lalo na kung bihasa ka na mag-antay at mag-tumiming sa ganito. For investors, Ray, anong masasabi mo?
So for investors, yung consideration here would be yung valuations talaga. And the recommendation is to wait for better valuations. What exactly are better valuations? Yan medyo subjective na. So present lang natin dito is a sensitivity table. So kasi you can take 10 analysts for example, tapos ask mo, magkano sa tingin mo projected profit ni Converge for 2020? And all 10 of them would have different answers. So, and also all 10 of them would have different recommendations na some of them would think na dapat 30 times PE lang to. Some of them would accept 45 times PE. So ito, just going back to this table, no? And what we're showing here is, just for example, let's say makontinue nila na 50% profit growth every year. And let's say bumaba yung price to 15 pesos. Then we're looking at around 40 times PE. And for me personally, I could be wrong, of course. Everyone is entitled to their own views, especially when it comes to relative valuations like using PE. So for me personally, I would prefer this at around 35 to 40 times PE. So depende na lang dun sa ma-achieve niyang profit growth and depende na lang at what price siya at a specific point in time, right? So, ayun, that's the recommendation to wait for better valuations.
Sige, wait, balik tayo doon, Ray, doon sa valuation chart. Interesting yan kasi agree ako kay Ray. I think kung high growth name, 30, 40 times usually, medyo safe or lower 30s, ganyan. Tapos pag tinignan mo, lagi siyang yung CAGR niya, 'di ba, 69% or profit growth niya nasa 50+%. Pero kung conservative tayo, 'di ba, 54 times PE siya. Tapos assuming lang na hindi positive kasi pwede naman what if na pwedeng mag 100% yan na profit growth, magulat tayo eh. Pero paano kung medyo nagso-slow down ng konti? So kung conservative approach, kunyari 40% lang yung growth niya. Tapos yung sinabi ni Ray na within 35 to 40 times PE. So yung range ng price range mo dito can range between 12 to 14 pesos. Yun, yun, mas ano ka na, parang kung investor ka, 'di ba? Mas parang hindi ka na sobrang lugi siguro nun. Depende na nga lang sa confidence or projection level mo dun sa company and sa industry. So at ito lang, pinapakita namin ni Rito kasi una, nakita na natin na medyo mabigat and then may mga disadvantage rin yung kabigatan and then yung IPO structure, yung mga secondary shares. Pero good company and good prospects yung industriya. So ito yung purpose ng chart na to para makaabang tayo sa tamang diskarte natin and price levels. Okay, so Ray, anong final thought natin dito? Anong final message mo?
Yun nga, it's a really attractive company for me. Ang ganda ng historical performance niya. And yun nga, as we mentioned, growing market share. And it's maganda yung prospects ng company. Pero it's really a matter of, at the end of the day, it's can you make money on your investment, diba? And
Tama.
at really high valuations, it gets harder to do that. So even from a trading perspective. So ayun, for me, for this one, I would be a bit more patient. I wouldn't jump in right away. I think agree ako dun sa sinabi mo, hindi tayo maiiwanan ng stock na to.
Oo. Yun yung importante, mga ka-investa. And then as a trader din naman, yun yung maganda ng approach eh, yung kung hindi mo ina-anticipate masyado, hindi ka atat, tas hinayaan mo mag-flow yung company. Kung sakaling mali yung conservative approach tapos talagang nagka-demand to, edi bilhin natin yung setup, 'di ba? Kapag nagka-breakout yan or high volume after a certain buwelo period, pwede mong abangan yun. And baka dun talaga lumabas yung momentum stage ng company. So either way, I think patience plays a part dito, whether investor or trading approach. And ayun, sana nagustuhan nyo tong video na to. Ray, anong last message sa anong mapapayo mo or any last message bago tayo matapos?
Ayun, so yun, you can subscribe up to 1 million pesos of worth of Converge, no? Up to you na if you want to put in that much money. Pero ayun, it's an exciting IPO. It's different kasi in the sense na large cap siya, yes, and alam natin statistics nun, pero high growth company rin siya eh. And bihira tayo makita ng ganung klaseng mix. So very interesting, and I'm excited to see how this trades.
Yeah, so congrats sa sa Philippines, sa Philippine Stock Exchange and sa buong ekonomiya natin. Another good IPO na talagang nag-start rin sa simula tong mga to, and congrats to Sir Dennis Uy rin yung pangalan, no? Dennis Uy rin.
Yeah.
Sir Dennis Uy ng Converge na naka-IPO siya, big achievement. And then for us investors naman, another option for investing and trading. Pero we will wait at the right time. Ako personally, abangan ko to. Maybe not today, pero it babantayan ko rin kung how it develops kasi interesting yung dynamics nito, how it will affect yung industry rin, lalong usong-uso yung mga telco, yung mga internet plays, etc. So maganda abangan paano mag-evolve yung dynamics nito. Okay. So yun mga ka-investa, sana nagustuhan nyo yung review natin sa Converge IPO, and good luck and Godspeed sa lahat ng mga trades nyo. Ray, salamat sa oras mo. As always, napaka-high value ng insights ni Ray. Low profile lang to. Kung nagtataka kayo bakit di nagpapakita, ganun talaga. Balang araw, makikilala nyo rin to. Pero importante na nandito yung skills and puso ni Ray para mag-contribute sa community natin. So yun lang mga ka-investa. Salamat and kita-kits ulit sa Investagrams. Thank you.